continue to track a mild start to the weekend across mid-Missouri, still dealing with some more of that summer-like heat today, so it's important to stay hydrated, and you can see that's as we're dealing with a frontal boundary. At this point, it's settling right overhead on top of mid-Missouri, and also following this low pressure with this newest update that you can see is tracking along this. We're going to follow that low pressure, possibly even with us through the end of the weekend, but really want to pay attention to those rain chances we'll possibly run into for our late Saturday and early Sunday. Still before that, again, tracking that mild start to the weekend. Temperatures are right on deck with what we've had for the past couple of days into those mid to upper 80s, but as clouds fill in throughout the day, that's likely going to keep any of us from reaching into those 90s. You'll just certainly want to stay hydrated before that heat gets pushed out. We likely won't even see most of that rainfall until a lot of us are heading to bed overnight tonight. Now, this has bumped up a bit in schedule if you've been with us for the last couple of days. We have been tracking that maybe even just past midnight into our Sunday, but you can see I bumped that even near the dinner hour for our Saturday night. So it's already important again by dinner hour tonight to start staying weather aware here, as we'll be tracking possibly about two of these main rounds of rain here. Our first one, we'll actually be watching this system to the south here with a low pressure system. That's going to maybe send an isolated storm or two out near the I-44 corridor just for the early afternoon here, but actually again, those two rounds possible along this cold front. We'll see that actual cold front boundary likely end up south of I-70 by the dinner hour here. This is again about 6 to 7 p.m. We're tracking that front south, but that main activity is actually behind the frontal boundary, and that likely moves in even closer to sundown here. We'll still have to follow those initial storms certainly along this boundary. This is where we could get some heavy downpours out of these isolated cells, but really seeing that weakening trend, especially with this second half here. That's really not going to have too much energy behind the first round, and only just going to hear some rumbles of thunder likely heading into our Sunday morning. Now, with that bumping ahead of schedule, we're even getting that rain out a bit earlier for Sunday. This is just by our sunrise hour, and we're already starting to clear out across the western half of the area, and certainly by that noon hour looking clear and even losing a lot of the cloud cover by that point. So still plenty of time to head out for the weekend. We'll notice actually heading into our late Sunday, those winds starting to shift out of the north behind that cold front. Our temperatures are only topping out in the 70s for the end of the weekend. That does stick with us into Monday, but you'll notice those rain chances cutting off early next week. We just do not have a lot of moisture sticking with us, unfortunately, for the week ahead. And another high pressure ridge building overhead is going to bring us back even close to those upper 80s by late next week. But we're actually getting right into the peak of hurricane season as well with some of these warming temperatures. We can still see Hurricane Earl tracking out into the Atlantic, but by this point, that is actually the only activity we're tracking. Again, I mentioned we are right into the peak of hurricane season today on September 10th, and we only have Earl out there in the Atlantic right now. The rest of it, nothing to track so far, so really continue to look like a fairly subpar here Atlantic season. We are still only had about 5 named storms, 2 hurricanes so far for this Atlantic hurricane season, where we're just reaching the peak, so could possibly run into some more of that activity soon, but really not looking like a very active Atlantic so far.